All right, welcome everybody. So for character design, one of the things we wanted to talk about right now, let's take a look at the power of silhouette studies. Okay, so silhouette studies means just an outline with just black in the middle, no detail. Okay, so if you learn how to use silhouette extremely well, and what I mean by that, learning how to use it, means that you incorporate that into your design process and you build forward using that. Okay, and not the interior details. Unfortunately, everyone in this room, along with me, learned how to draw from tracing and copying when we were little kids. We looked at stuff, we copied it. When I was a little kid, I had a Dungeons and Dragons book, and I opened up that book and I found really cool pictures and I copied all of those. But what the problem with that when you're a kid is, what did you learn to do? Is you learned to copy outline and interior lines, and you learned nothing about shape and form. And shape and form also deal with being able to draw out of your head. If you don't have that ability to turn shape in your head, to turn animals to a position in your head, like for example, if a student mentioned, oh, I couldn't find a photo of that animal, well, you don't need a photo of that animal. You just need to know its construction and its shape, and you should be able to draw it from any angle because you know the core shapes that it exists in. Okay, so just taking a look, I just went through here and I just put together some really basic shapes for us to look at. Some of them are a little bit blurry. Okay, that's just from the digital copy that I got online. But just starting with basic silhouettes, right? Silhouettes. As soon as we see a silhouette, it immediately communicates something to the viewer right off the top. Okay. When I show you this right here, okay, what do you think? First thing, maple leaf. Now, wait. Somebody said something else. Canada, right? Because if you know any Canadians, their flag is that leaf right there. If you saw that branded onto a barrel of whiskey, Canadian whiskey. See, okay? So one little shape that quick, I don't care about the interior details, okay? If I just see one basic shape, it's the first thing that my mind registers with, okay? At Disney Feature Animation, they did tests on what the viewers would see, and they would put artwork up and they would have an audience come in. They would fill out a form and they would show them an environment really quick, or I should say an illustration of an environment and characters, and then they would ask them, what do you see? And they figured it out really quickly. They did this back in Walt's time, okay, in the very beginning. The human brain tends to see like 1 to 3 key shapes, and then everything else becomes lost. We see 1 to 3 quick reads, and everything else is secondary. Along with those quick visual reads that we see, it gives us an immediate feel for what's going to happen, and it explains the composition. Okay? And again, the big thing is when we get to the digital narrative side, where we're telling a story with a narrative, right? If I have a character that looks like a villain and she's made up of all round edges, there's a problem. If I have a villain that's filled with triangles, before you even see the details, just looking at the shape of that character, you know that character is going to be evil. That's what good character design is about, and that's how the language of silhouettes translates into that, okay? All right? Now, not to expect anyone in here to be a dog owner. I saw that, and I had to have that because I had that dog when I was a kid. His name was Quinto. What kind of dog is that? It's a boxer. How did you know it's a boxer? Are you dog experts? Did you test his blood? No. You can look at the shape and it's all in the face. So what does that tell you right there? If you're working on designs for a boxer, where should the majority of your design efforts be spent? In the hind legs? No. In the tail? No. On that face, because that's the face that makes a boxer. So there are certain characteristics that are going to be inherent in a design. And every time you go to design somebody, you need to ask yourself, what are those important characteristics of that individual? So a little bit later on, we will take a look at caricature artists that do that very well. A caricature artist, whether it be editorial or illustration, they look for a feature in that face. So when I think of, and you guys can chime in here, if you think of a predominant face as somebody you know, okay, I'll give you an example because I just saw him on screen the other day. Kurt Russell. Kurt Russell has eyes like this, like he's always pissed off, and a brow that comes down to like a V. And if you saw him in Tombstone, He was perfect in that, right? He was absolutely perfect. He had a low-cut hat, and he had eyes really low. And if you go look for caricatures of Kurt Russell, I guarantee you they're going to be showing off his eyes, and they're going to be showing off he has a chiseled facial feature. Okay? Find the strengths in the characters and in the people you want to design, and then find what I call the weaknesses or the areas that you don't need to do. I don't need to go in, if I'm going to draw a boxer right now, his legs aren't important to me. His arch is already there in his chest. His hind legs are there. It's that whole entire face. And what's most important about a boxer outside of the face, what do boxers do if you've ever had one? They slobber everywhere. They don't even know they're doing it. They come up to see you. My boxer Quinto would come up, and he had this like thing of slobber just dripping from his mouth, and he'd be like, "Hi," and then it just slapped on my face, right? And I would always wipe off the slobber and put it on my shirt, and I had big long gookie things on my shirt when I was a kid, right? But then I would tie him up to my wagon, and he would pull me down the street, right? So those are qualities of that. So just by looking at him, what do we know that that is? It's a bird, and it's probably a sparrow. Okay? How do we know it's not a stealth fighter? Well, because it's a bird. But I'm making a connection here real quick. Can I use silhouettes of an animal not only to guide me, but to influence my design of another character? Of course I can. So if I'm working on, let's say, Halo 6, and I have to develop a mean, wicked alien with scales that came from a crazy exoskeleton creature underground, I might have certain shapes that I've grabbed from other creatures that allow me to develop him. Okay, that's the other power of silhouettes. And so if I'm going to design a creature, let's say I had to design a mech, a robot, because I just did this for the faculty show, right? If I have to design a mech and I want it to look menacing or evil, what kind of creature is menacing or evil that makes you go, ooh, when you see it?
Tarantulas.
Tarantulas? What, something we have here in California with a little tail on the back?
Scorpions.
Better yet, rattlesnakes. We have a ton of them. And when you see them, they have a certain shaped head. That's how you know they're poisonous. And when you see that head looking at you, it scares the bejesus out of you. Okay? I go hiking back here between, it's like Fullerton and part of it connects to Yorba Linda and Chino all back there. And I've been walking before, and I have my headphones in, and I look down. All of a sudden, there's a little rattlesnake looking at me. And I'm like, ah, and I like run away, right? But that shape of that head is very distinctive. Okay? The shape of the body. Okay? What's that? Now, it could be one or two. It could be a trick. If you're in Sweden, it'd be a different answer. Here, it's a moose. Right? What is it? Are you sure it's not a moose? What is it?
Deer.
Okay, it's a deer and elk. Could it be a reindeer?
No.
Why not? Reindeer tend to have like big clumpy shaped horns. They're like skinny, and then they have these like round clumps on the end of them. Okay, so that's something to know, that if you were designing one of those animals, I'm not even getting into interior lines. We're just looking at exterior silhouettes. Okay? Aw. Who said ah?
It looks like Ratatouille. It's
Oh, okay.
long. Rats are cute. Huh?
By the way, one of the guys that, if you open up the Ratatouille book and you look at the sculptures, the artist that did that, I forget his first name. I know his last name is Raft, because he had a brother named Joe Raft who was a storyboard artist, and he passed away in a car accident. And then the other brother that did that went to school here, and he studied under Michel Van Rye, and he was a sculpture major. And then he went up to Pixar to work. Anyway, what's that? Tree, right? You know what's so great about silhouettes, folks? This ties into digital painting. All I have to do is select that right there, define it as a brush, and I could paint a forest in a matter of seconds by using that. Why? Because the mind reads simple shapes. It's the first thing that we see. Okay? All right, give me a second. Let me back up there. What's that?
A black.
I like the girls' answer because they're like a plane, and then the guys are like SR-75 Blackbird, you know, and they know exactly what it is, right? That's all right. That's one of the fastest planes in the world, right there. Okay, huh? Not anymore. What's the new one? I know they have something else, but this is 1970s technology, and it would go like Mach 4 or something, or Mach 5, which means you could fly from here to New York in like 20 minutes or something, right? It was pretty fast. Okay, couple dancing. Are they doing what dance do you think they're doing? There's an answer to that. More information that can be provided to the viewer in a silhouette is key to your design. Is that a Texas two-step? Hell no. Right? How do you know that? Look at the shoes she's wearing. They have a little point on them, and she has a little fluffy dress. I would bet my money that is a tango. Okay? Because of that. Him, not so much. He almost looks like he can go to a bullfighting contest. Okay? I can't really tell what he's wearing. Huh? Yeah, he's got coattails, so he's fancy, so could be in that area. We all know what that is, but just looking at now, it's a combination of silhouettes. We take a human, we take a horse, put them together, and it reads. If I have a war scene, all I have to do in my foreground is put the silhouette of a horse and put a knight on the top with a hand on a sword holding some type of banner, and you don't need to see any interior detail. I can even wash him off and brush him where you can barely see him, and you'll know he's like the leader of an army by using the silhouette, okay? Now, is that the Texas two-step? No. Same couple dancing. Okay. What's that?
Stealth bomber.
See? The guys are all stealth fighters, stealth bomber. Actually, it's stealth fighter, right? Because the stealth bomber is a Y, is like a big Y shape. Okay. But what's really fascinating is when you take a look at that, and I have it on another lecture, and you take a look at a sparrow going full speed, it's the same shape right there. I'll show it to you. I think I have it in this lecture. Gee, I wonder where the designers at Lockheed got that idea. When you take a look at a sparrow, and when it dives and it comes down to get its prey, it is almost that exact same shape right there when it's traveling really fast. Wonder what influence that was for. Okay. Of course, characters. These are always great because you get to look at. So this is once you start getting into. This is another level of realistic character design. Okay. Nothing wrong with this. We can maybe, if you guys want, we can dabble into some of this. I know David's like, yes, Donald. Certain students I already have strengths in this. That's great. Because this is, some of these really read and work well, but this is much more realistic. And the only downfall with the realism is that they tend to be proportionately about the same. You can squash and stretch a little bit, and there's some nice variations in here. This is from the Huntsman book, okay, that was done by Art Center students that were undergrads, okay. It's a great book, talented artists. And these are great too. These are some others I grabbed from online. But this is what I like getting into. This is Ben Morrow, okay, who also, he did these for Sony, okay, and I don't think they ever took this project anywhere else. But what's really important about this is look at the silhouettes and look at the characters below, okay. You can see the oddity and the variation. You can see, if you take away the rendering, the importance of how the silhouette has to read and work, and there it's right in front of you. It's all been displayed out, okay? He's a wonderful designer. He's extremely talented. Go find his blog site or his website and take a look. I think he went to Art Center too. Very talented, okay? This is what I like to venture into a little bit more, is now we're a little bit more stylized, where, if I were to ask you, who's probably the smartest one out of that bunch? Which one would you say? Far right or the far left? I would say the one on the far left. He feels like he's maybe the leader. Who's the one who might be most likely to figure out how to make explosives and he'd steal your money while you're sleeping? The one on the right. And who's the one that would have a hard time finding the spoon to eat a cereal in the morning? The one in the middle, right? Okay. I don't have any interiors. I have no facial recognition. I have no ears, no eyes. I have nothing. All I have is shape. That's the importance of understanding shape, okay? I wanted to show this because I forget the name, but to give credit where it's due. In the history of animation, Okay, one of the first animated features ever done was a French artist who animated a series of silhouettes that were cut out on black paper. And when the camera had first been created, she took a picture of every single one of them and animated them all moving and acting. And that's where the power of the silhouette first came out, was through the introduction of photography. I'm sorry, I happen to forget the name. I can look it up. But that's where that image is from. Okay, I saw that and I thought that was pretty cool, because it's like two big robots in, like, with one, the business owner over here on the right with his little thing in his suit. You know what I mean? I just thought that was neat silhouette design. Okay, I just came across those. Those were pretty good. Now here's a benefit of something you can do with your silhouettes. After you define some silhouettes, you can go back over on them, and then you can start pulling out the outfits and defining the character a little bit, or drawing on top of them. Sometimes I take a silhouette that's done, and in Photoshop I drop it down the opacity so it's more like a gray, and then I sketch on top of it, and I'll do that numerous times to see what variations of characters come out of that. So that's sort of a neat approach when you think about it. Make an interesting silhouette shape, dye it when you get the one that you like. So for me, I showed you my sketchbook. I'll do like a page or two. I pick my top 5 as silhouettes, and then I thin them down as gray, and then I draw on top of them. I'll do that for a demo for you next week. And then I draw on top of them, and then I do, so they're all the same silhouette, but I have like 5 different characters that come out of it. And then I pick the one that I like the most, because I push and pull details of shapes inside the silhouettes. Okay, thought that was pretty cool. Just found that online looking. I didn't include anything here from the guys from Creature Box, who were absolutely amazing and know all this language too. Okay, but this here, folks, is one of those golden tickets. This is part of the secret to visual communication and design, is understanding your silhouette shapes. I teach the Maya classes here as well, because I use Maya professionally for modeling. So one of the things that I learned when I first got into Maya is, one of the guys who was teaching me, he made a comment and said, whenever you model something, approach it like it's a drawing, and think of the shape of the object first before you get into the details. If you have too much details inside your objects, you're going to kill it. Okay? All right. Here's some other good designs right there. You can do this. What's something you could pick up from this method or approach is the gray back behind the silhouettes to get them to pop a little bit. There's nothing wrong with doing that. It's a wonderful approach. Also, something else that this guy is doing in here is he's starting to use positive and negative shape arrangement. See, he's starting to go into his silhouettes, and he's starting to subtract just a little bit. Okay? Just a little bit, enough to give details of a shirt, of a collar, okay, that's leading him into another level of design. That's great. Okay? It's a wonderful approach. Okay? All right. Let me go back one notch here. I wanted to show you some other variations and how you can also use silhouettes, right? Prop design. See that? Every one of those is just a base silhouette. Some of them don't even have barely any linear detail on them. Look at the shape of that right there. There's not even indication of highlights or edges. It's just the shape of the chair with the top on it. That's it. This just has the shape of the front. That's a stylistic approach right there. So you can not only use silhouettes for designing, I could use that as a whole approach to make my own stylistic version for illustrations for a children's book. Is I'm just using silhouettes that I can change in color in Photoshop in 5 seconds, and I can put little details on there, and look at that. It comes alive. Okay? Silhouette shapes being used for design purposes. That's like a little bit of silhouette character design with a little bit of Alphonse Mucha combined in there. Okay, look at that. Those are simple silhouettes of people, and then they put a couple graphics behind there, and you get something that really starts to come alive, that starts to work. So there's a real huge importance to what we see and read And the funny thing is as artists, we want to complicate things all the time. We want to over-render. If you're making a Christmas card, once we start to look at a couple really fantastic artists, one of my favorite, Pascal Campion, okay, we take a look at his work. If that's a Christmas card, do I need to render the hell out of that tree? No. In fact, all I need to do is just have a tree shape that's like a pine tree and put a couple highlights on it for different sized what? Lights or ornaments that are hanging. That's it. That's all I have to do. And then I have to show kids that are happy running around the tree. Or what else could I put that could be around that tree right now? Presents. That's it. I'm done. So all I have to do is stamp a color, and we'll get to that a little bit later. Stamp a color of a tree, select the back side of it, make it dark green, and then put a character in front of it that's more detailed, and boom, I'm done. And I have something that's realistic that comes to life. Pascal Campion is a genius at that. He knows how to tell a story very simply. He's really great at what he does, and he communicates love, feeling, and all these warm goodness through all of his work just by using little simple silhouette shapes, not without a ton of interior linear detail and shading. Okay? I just grabbed a couple other samples there. Look at that. You can work in a graphic sensibility. Look, you can make, here's something you can do in Photoshop real easily. You can create a really awesome looking silhouette. Then you could select it as a selection, and then you could put a gradient across it. You see how the gradient to that airplane is one silhouette, but now the artist striped a gradient going across it that ties into the rest of that. This is a silhouette here as well. There are lots of artists that work like this. Okay? There are a couple fantastic artists up at Pixar that work in the silhouette fashion for all their designs and everything that they do. Okay? I just like to go through some of this and just show you some variations. I want you to understand the importance of what it is that you can do. Let's see what I have here. Okay? I thought those were just beautiful. Look at that. Look at those boats. Were any of those boats used to sail across with Columbus to the United States? Maybe one. Maybe the one on the very upper right, which is this one right here, was. Okay? And that's even stylized. You can see how the shapes are pushed on it, right? Okay? Which one of those shapes, which one of those boats is used in Hong Kong? That's right, bottom left. And you know it just by looking at it. Why? Do you know because there's a guy on there who's from Taiwan? No. Is there a flag? No. You know because of the way that they make their thank you, I was going to say their streams, but their sails. Okay, I'm on empty right now from teaching all day. Okay, but those little indications there, that's why that's so important. If you can do, I already have 2 demos up online on my YouTube site where I did demos of mechs from a side view, and then I took the ones that I liked, and then I did silhouette studies at a 3/4 view. And when I did that, they just sort of came alive. Okay, so you could take any of these studies right now and turn them into a good 3/4 view and really develop them even further. Now what's really cool is I look at that, which one of those right there is used by a Viking? Bottom right. Some of you don't know left or right yet. All right, this one right here, bottom right hand corner, that would be used by Vikings. Which one of those would be used by Egyptian or Persian? This guy here, that definitely feels Egyptian because they had that curve in it. Are you a master of Egyptian history? No, you don't have to be, because your mind is accessing your visual cortex right now and your visual library, part of your cognitive learning skills, and it's remembering shapes that you've seen in your life and what they've been associated with. You could determine history, background, I just go across age significance, gender, personality, all that from just the silhouette read, right? That's all you need to see. The ships are a great example of that. Okay, looking at that structure, because I've been to one of those places that tie in. Okay, which one of those would be, that's a tricky one because the ones up on the top might fool some of you that haven't traveled, right? If I said I had to create a mosque inside Turkey, I would use the top row for that, okay? If I traveled across the world a little bit, and if I talked about India and the Taj Mahal, I would start to be looking at some of the structures that are down here, okay? So I know that there's a girl with a bow and arrow there because of the silhouette shape indicating parts of the anatomy, and I could see the bow and I could see the arrow, and when I look back, even this figure shape that we used to do as little kids, okay, I can see that she has a full figure, and I can see how she is defined. Even the hair coming off like that, having the twists, is really important in helping to identify that figure, okay? And then I could tell here that some of these are more of a male figure, all right? If you do a character and I can't tell if it's male or female, go back to your design stage, spend a little bit more time, okay? I love mechs, so I saw those, and I had to put those in. Look at that guy. Is that guy friendly, Cat?
He's a wet
It's a
cat.
very
It's an angry cat.
Halloweenish cat.
That's right, you hit it right on the money. He's total Halloween. There's no detail in there. It's a little bit of interior line detail. But you know that that guy on the left probably has some money. Or it could be tied to wealth. He's dressed nice. He has a bow tie. Look at his hair fluffed up. And he's smoking what looks like a fancy cigar. And look at the gesture of this. Anyone here smoke? Ever smoked? Well, I did when I was younger. I don't anymore. But people I knew would smoke like this. He's smoking like this. Okay? He's upright. He's straight. And that's how rich people smoke. Like that. And what's her gesture? Yes, those kids are horrible in the neighborhood. Right? Can you see that? Does she seem like a sympathetic, fun, happy grandma? No.
I thought that was a man.
Huh?
I thought that was a guy.
That was a guy?
Yeah. It looked like
It could a little bit, but I'm looking at got a little Duran Duran thing going on there with the hair, but I'm looking at the whole, when I look at the collar, it reminds me of women's fashion that had like big collars that overhung. This?
Yeah.
It could be. That's another way. It could be an undone tie. I thought like the big white collar was overlapping the jacket.
I thought he was like a drug dealer.
And then he has that, see the eyepiece? That was great. That little bend right there.
For glasses or long.
Could be glasses or the eyepiece. Can you see him with the little eyepiece that dangled down like that, connected to his jacket? What I like, what's a great part of character design is, we should probably do this in this class, is what's the voice that he makes? Yeah, what's a sophisticated voice? Guys got to do voices. When animators animate, they have a mirror right there, and they look in their mirror. And they do the faces, and they romp around. I wish I could find this online, but there's a great video that was about the animators from Toy Story that did Woody. And you should see the key animator. He's like, hey, folks, what you doing? And he just does Woody, and he walks around and films himself doing that, and then he goes and he animates it. If you could feel the movement of the character in a pose, okay, you will be totally successful. There is a great song on K-Rock right now. It's called the Elephant Song. Has anybody heard it? Okay, hold on one second. I'm going to pause. Let's go back to the lecture. I just hit record again so we can finish up here. Okay? So we talked at those. Let me see. I just have a couple more folders here. Even to environments, this is where it gets really fantastic. Look at that right there. Look at how cool you can use silhouette shapes to design environments with.
We're kind of doing that in printing.
Are you? Yeah, it's really similar. Ty's using silhouettes. We're going to be doing that in the intermediate paint class a little bit. Look at that right there. That's great. There's not a ton of detail on there. That's mainly just silhouette shapes. If you can select something, fill it with 3 tones of color, create quick visual reads, you are a storyteller. That quick. Okay? See how it ties into this now? This is when you get into storyboarding and storytelling. If you become a master at silhouette and you have the ability to think of, plan, and stage now, and you have a knowledge of perspective, now you become a storyteller with it. You don't even have to get into detail here. There is barely any detail in any of those shots. There is only silhouette shape. Okay?
Ooh, that gives
It's cool. Battlefield, right? Look at that character. He's mainly silhouette. There's a couple little highlights on his helmet and his jacket. That's it. Design simple. All right? Look at that. Jungle. Atmospheric perspective. Dark in the front. Your next silhouette's lighter. Your next silhouette's lighter. Then you have that feel of the jungle. They put a gradient in there. Okay? So you can not only do characters with this, but if you learn silhouette really well, you can put your characters into it, and then you can start telling stories about them and what they're doing. Look at that little kid there trying to pick up that branch, surrounded by that big giant tree. I have no idea what he's sticking the branch into or what he's going to do with it, but look at how small that little kid is compared to the rest of his world. So the first thing I noticed was the boy standing there because he's the biggest area of contrast. Then what's the secondary thing you notice?
Spider.
The big spider. So there's a reason why the artist didn't put a ton of white highlights by the spider, because that would have made him the first visual read. The first visual read is the character about to reach over and touch something, and look at the little dot on the eyes. That little white dot was done on purpose to get you to look right at that character. Because without that dot, he has a little bit of saliva dripping off that spider. Can you see it? Like saliva or web, whatever it is, yucky spider gookiness. If you so much as made that a little bit brighter, boom, your eyes would have gone right over there. It's sort of web. I don't know if you could see it, but see there's like a web here, a web here, a web here, a web there. Okay? And you want to know something that's pretty fascinating? Because I learned this, a friend of mine told me, and he's absolutely right. I have a black widow problem in my backyard. Now the brown widows have taken over. You know how you have brown or black widows?
And crooked spider webs.
They have crazy spider webs. They're like on crack cocaine, and their spider webs are like this. And they're all over the place. So whenever you see one of those around a corner, they have no method to their madness. They just make spider webs, and whatever lands in there, they sting it, kill it, and done. Brown widows are even more deadly than the black widows, and what's really weird is the silhouette shape of the browns. How they have a really like squashed oval on their backside. And they don't look like a brown, they look like a brown spider until you see a little red triangle on their base side. And then you realize, oh, that's a brown widow. And they're 10 times more venomous than the black widows. So the brown widows have like taken over. They're really nasty. Okay? But when you see a spider, I went up by my palm tree and I saw one of those big, round, pretty webs where every little increment is perfect. That's like a normal spider. They're not like the deadly, you know what I mean? They're just like killing bugs, flies, whatever. Okay? So, part of the power of silhouette, if you get good at it, it also transfers to, I forgot why I had these in here. It's just looking at planes. Sometimes when I get bored, I just look up silhouettes and just try to keep a bunch together just to show students. Here's a great little assignment. I'd like to do this in the intermediate class right now, where you take a bunch of shapes. I think Franz did something like this. It's an exercise where you just take, like you have 10 or 12 shapes on a layer, and you have to organize them in different sizes, and you can create totally different compositions based off of what you have. I have no indication of perspective or anything else inside these lectures. But I know I might be somewhere on a sea or a planet or a desert, right? Now what could change that is if I introduce some cool colors. If I made this one here in the middle sort of orange and put like a big yellow sun on there, I can make it look like I'm in the middle of the desert or Utah. If I put especially a little bit of orange and make it like with the colors I'd see in Utah. Or I could even stretch some of these and make it look like I'm on a different planet with a different type of atmosphere, right? But what's important is how I can arrange all of my silhouettes and come up with these really fantastic reads right from the beginning, okay? Look at the silhouette power in this. Look at the house, and then look at just the pole and the trees that are in the back there, all right? We all know what that is, okay? All right, and then that's, I found this guy's concept art online. Fantastic again. Look at the shape arrangements. Look at how he's telling the story. Simple reads. This part of character design and understanding silhouettes, it ties into everything else. It ties into staging. It ties into storyboarding. It ties into environment design. It's all wrapped together in one sweet little bow. And the more time you spend to understand all that, the better off that you're going to be down the line in your education. And I'm telling you, I have this discussion with people that are other artists that are at like my level that have worked professionally, and it's like a common language we're sharing. And when you're sitting in a room with students that don't know this, it's evident in their work. They don't know anything and they're not doing any pre-planning. Okay? So, do I even need to tell you who these characters are here? Let's go along. Who's this? Who's that? Who's that? Nope. That's Fred Flintstone. That's Daffy, though. Because Daffy had a little hangover thing there, the little cheek thing. Okay. Who's that? Ren and Stimpy, that's right. And we know who that is. One of the most recognizable characters of all time. Okay. And who's that? Roadrunner. Well, I'm giving you, these are the most, here's the importance of silhouette. Here's your answer right here. You know who they all are. You don't need to see any details. Who's that? Bullwinkle. Who's that? Odie. Goofy. Who? That's right. I don't know him. I don't like him. But anyway, I know. Dexter. Snoopy.
Why don't you like Squidward?
I just don't. I don't know.
Is it because of his sarcasm?
See, here's the great thing about this part of silhouettes is that we live in a culture that's about buying and purchasing. Every one of you know these shapes because you've seen them on commercials, you've seen them on cereal boxes, T-shirts. Okay, what are the name of the 4 presidents on Mount Rushmore? Washington. Wait. If you know them all, Kylie. But Lincoln. Who else? You guys are really struggling. I got 3. Jefferson, Roosevelt. Okay, that took a while. What are the name of the 3 characters on the Rice Krispies box? Okay, that's my point. Is that you live in a society of consumerism. You know these characters. You see them on lunch pails. You see them on shirts, right? Well, that's the power of the silhouette right there in front of you. You get to witness it. Okay, and then of course, last. Oh, I'm sorry, we did that one. There we go. Betty Boop. Yep. Casper. These 2 were hard. Yep, there you go. Tasmanian Devil. Yep. That's right, Pink in the Brain. Yeah, that's right. Okay. Every one of those is a different read. So, here's a battle I have with students before in classes. They give me characters that they design a family, and everybody in the family is like the same shape. And I'm like, dude, what are you studying? Are you paying any attention to lectures? So right off the bat, when we get to that family assignment, every single person in your family should be a total different visual read. Just like every one of these characters right here is a total different visual read. Their height relationships, their head size, their body size, the roundness, the thinness, all variations of shape taking place. Okay? This is what I really like. I think that's what interests me a lot about the guys from Creature Box. Okay? Is that they took all this about design and then they combined all that information and then they started getting into like graphic novel and other cool stuff where now it all reads and breathes. So if you take this information and move it across the board, you want to go do realism, but do it with this in mind, and you will be 20 times better of a designer than anybody else. Okay? I put Mr. Mannequin up there for a reason. I have had students that lack in drawing skills. If you lack in drawing skill, it's in your best interest to learn something about form and shape. A great way to learn form and shape is to take a wooden mannequin like this. They're about $10, and you position him, and you put him on a table in front of you, and you rotate him in 30 different positions and draw him day in and day out. What that will teach you is form and construction. Once you learn form and construction, you'll start to apply it to that. And you'll be able to get into your work and start posing it in the human figure and figuring out gesture and construction, right? It's the same principle. And then you'll get to that point where you'll be like, now I can pose my mannequin all badass, right, and give him an umbrella. Okay? Not that you'd want to, but you can, right? When I draw people in scenes, I draw mannequins. I figure out the perspective and how they exist in the world first. Then I come back and put on all the other details, right? I get the form done. How do you learn how to draw at low angles? You draw your mannequin. I can't hire a model and say, hey, let me go lay underneath you and draw you real quick. No. I can look at mannequins and I can rotate a mannequin from 100 different positions and I can draw them every time. Okay? I did that because I had a good instructor at Cal State Fullerton. Justin Sweet and I both had him. His name was Don Lagerberg. I think he just retired. Went to his retirement party last year. And Don made us take a mannequin. He made us draw an X and a Y axes on every part of that body. And we had to draw. And I drew that guy because I know. Don said, you want to be good at figure drawing and drawing the figure? Draw this mannequin all the time from 100 different positions. And I did exactly that. And I kept doing it. And I got better and better at it. You don't have to know how to draw people out of your head. All you have to really do is know how to draw the form out of your head. If you can draw shapes and you can make them exist in proper perspective, you will be just fine. It's the same thing that translates into character design. Okay? So those of you that are struggling with the form in this first assignment, you know what you have to do. Okay, let's see your knowledge there. What are those? Guns. We know that, right? If I had to pick out of those and say there's a Western, and which gun would represent the Western? The bottom right or the top one right here? That one or that one?
The top one, because it's more elongated and you can. And
well, you're probably right on the top one. They made it longer to shoot longer distances, but they also had short barrel ones that were for smaller, that were for close up, like close shots that could fit into a jacket easier. Now, if I were to say to you, which one of those is one that James Bond would carry?
Top right.
Any of the small ones.
It'd probably be, I'd think in this one, that one, okay? What's the one that Dirty Harry carried? Bottom left, right there. That's Dirty Harry's right there, right? Are you guys weapon masters? No. But you just know shape. In your mind, your visual library knows shape, right? Okay? So that's where that translates from here to here. I found that on somebody's website. I thought that was pretty cool. That's their 3D, going from the silhouette, the shape, to the design, and then the finished texture. Okay? You know what? I just want to print that on a shirt. I thought it'd be cool to have that on a shirt and just say badass above it. You know what I mean? No. So when we look at that, right? Look, we got a shotgun. What kind of shotgun is that?
Pump action.
It's a pump action shotgun. You can tell, you see the pump. But not just a pump. It doesn't have a what? Stock on it. Okay? Which one of those is Rambo's weapon? Yeah, because everyone saw Rambo to remember that, right? And so, which one of those is, oh gosh, what's the movie series with the guy who's like the CIA agent? But yeah, thank you. Which one of those is what Jason Bourne would carry? Like that one? Or maybe that one?
They're the same. I think.
Yeah, they're sort of the same one's a little longer. Right?
I think it's-
Great. Identity there. That's a silhouette when you subtract from it. Positive and negative shape. Look at how it reads. I was talking to Patrick Ballesteros the other day, and he made a great comment. We were talking about making an icon that represents you, that you put like on a business card or flyers, and he made a great comment. And I'm like, I knew that, but I didn't know it. And he said, whatever it is, you should be able to see it when it's really large, and you should be able to shrink it down and still read it. When I shrink that down, I can't go any smaller, but if I could, that still reads as a car right there. When I bring it up there, it still reads as a car. It's because of the positive and negative shapes and the silhouette of the vehicle. Okay. Hold on, where was I on that? Let me back up there. Monster trucks, right? That's somebody getting into silhouette shape to design vehicles, right? Having fun with silhouettes. See how it starts to come alive? There's some airplanes. Let me try to wrap this up here. Weapons. So this silhouette designing isn't just about character design, folks. It's about everything from this day forward that you do. Everything should be thought out like this. That's an easy process. That's the silhouette, and then you just select parts of the silhouette and you start to pull out the grays, and that's it. And then you come up with those variations right there. Same thing here. Look at those variations, and the student got to here, and then they modeled it in 3D, and they drew over it, and they got to that. Okay? All right, let me see if I have, thought I had one last little section here. Nope, that was it. Okay, so that's it. That's pretty good. That's at 46 minutes. So that's our lecture right there. Let me hit stop here on silhouettes. Okay?